Walk into the studio. My next guest here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center, Luis Vargas. Oh, coming around the corner already. Appreciate it. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
You've got a lot on your plate. I think I just described you as political operative, former candidate, right now very involved with the Mike Smith for Senate campaign.
Absolutely. The next state senator in District 13 down in Newport and Jamestown.
So how much is that heating up down there? Now, you're a Providence resident, but you do statewide. You are doing outreach for the Republican Party.
Absolutely. So I think it's very important that when an opportunity presents itself for us to get some good, honest, voice of reason legislators up at the State House, that I help in any way that possible. So even though I'm down in Providence, I go every Saturday and go door knocking with Mike Smith down in Jamestown and Newport. And like you said, the race is definitely heating up. You
are logging the miles down there in Senate 13, but you just ran yourself this past cycle.
I did. I ran for state representative in District 12, the Washington Park and Southside area of Providence. It's pretty close.
Talk to us about your experience. You know, we just had a Republican candidate on Ward 3 for City Council. Talk to us. You ran as an independent.
I did. And that's because I think that, especially in the south side of Providence, both parties have really just taken the community for granted. And I think that if I was going to run for my own community, to be a legislator, I think it's very important that you run as your own person on your own ideas and let the community decide. So that's what I did.
So you ran for state rep, and I did mention again having a Republican for Ward 3 in the City Council. Lots of foot with the City Council right now. I know you're focused down in Newport, you're keeping tabs on what's happening in Providence. What do you have to say for all the turmoil that has been on the council recently? We've seen with Kevin Jackson, we've seen with Luis. What's your sense of what's going on in the council, and especially what needs to go on at the council?
Well, I think it's disappointing is the only word that I can use. I live about 6 houses down from Luis Aponte, and I was at the press conference when he just said that he wasn't going to step down as council president, and 3 days later he did step down as council president. So I'd say it's just disappointing. I think what needs to happen in the council, and I haven't seen it happen yet, is someone needs to take charge. Someone needs to be a real leader. And right now I think the council's kind of going along to get along. I think even the budget doesn't have anything drastic in it, really, to change the game in Providence, which is what I think we need. So what I would say the council needs to do is, put us in a path forward that's explained, that's reasonable, and that is communicated to the public, and we haven't seen that yet.
So we have seen out of the acting council president, Sabina Matos, that she wants to push through an ordinance that would allow the acting president to, just by lieu of sort of the city charter, then become the council president. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that's actually a good policy. I think that seeing as the position she's in right now, President pro tempore, is an elected position, I think that the councilors, when they're deciding that, should say, do I see this person as the council president potentially in the future? And so I think mainly the council needs closure and not another hotly contested election. So I'd like to see her just remain in the position for the rest of the term.
And as you said, they're going along to get along. What's your thoughts on the mayor's budget that you've seen proposed? And what do you like and what do you not like?
So as I mentioned before, I think it's a pretty cookie-cutter budget. It's straightforward, but there's nothing earth-shattering in it. I like that there's more investment in the schools. I like that the teachers get a raise. That's very important to keep a focus on our educators. But I don't know if it's enough. I really don't. I see the turmoil with the council, and the streets aren't getting repaired. The bond issue isn't getting accomplished, and there's a lot that needs to be addressed that's still not.
And folks oftentimes say that they look at safe budgets, and we've seen a number of safe budgets, and we know the financial situation that the city is in with the pension obligation. Will we ever see the action to again, put Providence on better financial footing? Is bankruptcy an option?
I'd like to see. I don't think that we should go through the line of bankruptcy if we can avoid it. But with budgets like this, I'm not sure if we're ever going to get to a point where we can take that off the table. And the reason I say that is because the budget that they're considering now, they actually raised the amount that Alorza proposed because they said, oh, we're going to get more tax revenue, let's spend it. So rather than give the non-owner occupied house owners a tax break, as was requested by people in the public hearing. They said, no, we're going to spend it on these initiatives. So I don't really think the council's learning its lesson.
So you would have said not con with the spending.
Exactly.
And as working with Mike Smith, keeping an eye on what's happening up on Smith Hill there, and keeping an eye on the budget. Obviously, you're focused on citywide and statewide politics. What's your reaction, again, that they're dealing with this $135 million deficit that just, seems, again, to find out in May that this was the case, and now they have to wrangle with it?
I think it's unbelievable, and I'm honestly surprised that it's not larger. And the reason I say that is because we've seen scandal after scandal in regards to the UHIP crisis, in regards to the DMV. I mean, there's not one technological or even marketing venture that has gone right for the state. So the spending is just not resulting in what we needed to result in, and that's why I like what the Republicans proposed just recently, the Office of the Inspector General, an independent one, because they can go in and look at those agencies and see where there's cost inefficiencies and hopefully get some money back in the taxpayer's pocket.
Well, we did have Patricia Morgan in yesterday. She talked about, again, these 4 items that you can see on Go Local that the House GOP, the minority caucus, was focused on. She made the point with the Office of the Inspector General, yes, there's a price tag associated with it, but if they find issues of waste, of fraud, of abuse, of areas that they can rectify, there's potential for cost savings.
Absolutely.
For the taxpayer.
It's for me, it's a no-brainer. You look at the state of Florida; they have an inspector general for every department in their state government, and it saves them millions every year. I like to think that Rhode Island doesn't have to do anything nation-breaking. It doesn't have to be first in the nation in anything if it can get just the basics right. And I think looking at the agencies and seeing what we're doing right and wrong is a good start.
So let's maybe even branch out outside Rhode Island. What does it mean to be a Republican, a Rhode Island Republican in a Trump administration?
It's an interesting time. Rhode Island politics are so different from national politics. Here in Rhode Island, we've had 80 years of the same party control. So while there's divisive things going on in the national stage, here in Rhode Island, there's really only one person you can blame when something goes wrong. And right now, that's the Democratic Party, unfortunately. And I say that when I have a lot of personal friends that are Democrats, and I've got nothing against them as a party, but I just think that when you're in power for so long, I think absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we've got to see a change at some point.
Well, 18 is going to be here before we know it. We've had former Republican gubernatorial candidate Alan Fung in. Do you expect him to make any announcements soon?
I'm not sure if it'll happen soon, but I expect him to be in the governor's race for sure.
Any other Republicans? Joe Trillo?
Well, it's interesting that he has an event coming up, I think Exploring Rhode Island's Future. He will have to do a lot of work to gain his name recognition, I think, statewide. He helped with the Trump campaign. I'm not sure if that's going to help with the Rhode Island Republican base too much, seeing as Mitt Romney won here, and Ron Paul did extremely well here, so there's a very liberty-minded Republican status in the primary as well. But it's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
And speaking of interesting, former U.S. Senator, former Rhode Island Governor Link Chafee, very much in the news cycle these days, having a lot of critiques of the governor about her corporate welfare strategy, as he calls it. How do you see his role playing out right now? Do you think he'll run?
I think he will run, and he actually has an office down in Warwick, right in the same hallway as the Rhode Island Republican headquarters. So I see him on a regular basis, and
in the office.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the office, okay.
So he
we've got our moles out here.
He's doing some work, and I think he will end up running. He's got nothing else to do, and he has the time. So if he thinks he can make Rhode Island government better, all the more power to him.
Does he run as an independent or a Democrat?
What I think he will run as is an independent. What I'd like to see him run as is a Democrat.
Well, we saw the fighting this week that took place between Bill Lynch and Link Chafee. Clearly, we're in cycle for 18.
Oh, they are going to blows. There is no holding back at that point. It's surprising to see the Democratic infighting so soon. We're over a year out for even declaration period, I think. So 2018 is definitely going to be very interesting.
It is going to be interesting. You ran in 16, aspirations to run again?
I do have aspirations to run again. I ran in 2016 and got 47.2% of the vote. I was 186 votes shy. So I think that was a wake-up call for the representative of District 12, and I plan on waking him up again.
Okay, but right now you're focused on Senate District 13.
Absolutely.
How much time are you spending down there?
So I go every week on Saturdays. We're there all day, and we'll be continuing to do that until the special election on August 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I communicate with Mike on a daily basis. He goes out door knocking a lot, and that's the best way. That's the only way you're going to win. So he's doing what he needs to do.
What do you think Mike's learned? He's run for office before. What are your conversations with him? How's this time different?
Sure. So with a special election, it's all about turnout. So in the last 2 elections that he ran in, he was knocking on every single door, and he knocked on every single door more than once. This time, it's all about targeting the right voters, targeting those Republicans in Jamestown who will consistently turn out, and making sure everybody in Newport gets an absentee ballot. So I think if you target the right people, especially in a district where he got 46% of the vote in the past, he's got a real shot at winning, and I think the Democrats should be worried.
Well, we've got election fever grips the city and the state with the Ward 3 election this summer with Senate District 13, again, former Senate President Teresa Paiva-Weed seat. So, we're in cycle for 18, but plenty of election madness going on already here. Luis Vargas working on the campaign with Mike Smith, keeping an eye on local politics, keeping an eye up on the State House, and planning a run again in 18. So I appreciate your coming in today.
A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. That's what we try to do. We put people through their paces,
Absolutely.
Not on the spot, just through their paces.
Absolutely.
So Luis, I appreciate your coming in today.
No
We will
problem.
talk soon.
Thank
I'll
you.
let you go. I know you're a busy guy.
Absolutely.
Luis Vargas, as I said, seasoned political operative, ran for state rep in Providence in 16 as an independent, but working on the Republican candidate down in Senate District 13, Mike Smith's campaign, talking about what it means to be a Republican here in the city, tying it into what's happening nationally.